Thanks for tuning into this episode, Caring for the Caregiver. So we decided to bring this topic up because both of us are providers and we've been supervisors for folks and mentors for people. And it has come up quite a bit that caregivers, and we're using that term as the provider of care, caregiver. People tend to come into this work of like healing and support and um, pretty much abandon at times any sense of like taking care of themselves and remaining whole in place of caring for and being available for people who have needs. And it's not sustainable. It's not necessary. It doesn't even make you a better provider. And as we've kind of talked about in this series, you are really the first demonstrator potentially for people for what's like normal and ideal. And we tend to be the ones that are the litmus test for people for what's normal and ideal. And if we demonstrate that burning out and overextending and not taking care of our needs is the way that we care for them, then what are we teaching this new parent in the way that they should be with their infant, or the partner in the way that they should be for themselves with their partner? Like everybody is going to learn from this person that's supposed to be the one to teach you how to be of support and care. That self-care isn't important. So we wanted to make sure that got really centered in this conversation. And also, one of the things that I personally experienced over time is that I have become a stronger, more consistent, more available caregiver and support person than I was when I didn't center myself. So if I am well rested, if I feed myself, if I go to the bathroom when I need to, then I really can be more present for you when I'm with you rather than tapping my foot because I have to go to the bathroom and listening to what you said, but I'm a little distracted because, because there's something happening or there, just so many things. If everything is sort of taken care of in my mind and I can be present, then I am more effective. And so it becomes a part of my intention to be a good caregiver, to care for myself. So yeah. And you, what was your we have to do this topic?
I mean, it's essential. You can't talk about this work without talking about how the caregiver takes care of their own needs, especially because we're still people and many of us are moms.
Right. That's the thing. Yes, mostly in this field of people working with pregnant and postpartum people, especially in the birth worker world.
Yeah.
They're often also parents themselves.
Many of us are parents ourselves who have navigated a similar journey. And if we haven't dealt with our own stuff, then how are we helping other people deal with their stuff?
Right. But then some people are coming in because nobody helped them with their stuff. And they're like, well, I want to help everybody with their stuff. And
yes.
Yeah.
And that can get a little tricky if you're not aware of how your stuff is going to kind of merge into and color the person's stuff that you're working with.
Right.
And I know I've learned the hard way. I think this is a topic that commonly gets overlooked in training programs. They talk a lot about self-care, but first of all, self-care and the kind of industry that's connected to this concept of self-care is actually kind of privileged. I mean, there's this concept that you're going to be able to go on these big long retreats and, go to,
Bali.
massages and, all of these things is self-care.
Yeah.
And nobody ever talks about the literal day-to-day lifestyle things that you do from, like we have talked about before, that every time that I know I'm going to have any kind of engagement, I'm okay. What do I need to do so that I can show up my best self, so that I can be pouring from a space of my reserves and not from, this is all I got to give.
Right.
And then there's nothing left for me or my family or anything else. And so it took some time to get there. I certainly feel like my journey through motherhood really brought it to the surface. As I mentioned, I was already a caregiver, a care provider, but it became a non-negotiable. Like I just wasn't going to survive if I didn't prioritize taking care of myself. And so it really looks like making sure that I go to bed early enough so that I can have enough sleep for my brain to function.
Yeah, you're great with that.
Optimally.
I'm still working on that part. Yeah.
It takes time. But there's also a psychological piece to that, right? Like I have to relinquish the control over, I'm going to have to get everything on my to-do list done today. Yeah. If I stop now, rest, I'm probably going to be more effective and more efficient at finishing everything tomorrow than I would be doing it half awake tonight.
Right.
So it's part of it is also like that mental
Yeah,
shift.
yeah.
Did that happen for you too over
Yeah,
time?
definitely. I mean, there are certain things that I think everybody has to like do their self-assessment
Yeah.
around. And I have we'll put it in the show notes because it wasn't something we thought of before, but I have a like self-care assessment worksheet that I do a lot with like women and
Nice.
because it's
I'm gonna
like
check
let's
that
go
out.
over our life and see how we're doing. And always I do it every time when I do it with groups because I'm like, there's a new thing that I need to do. But when you do your own assessment of like where are you at with how you care for yourself and how you hold, I definitely realized that there were areas I was weak and just the incremental leaning into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gained so much back from this. Like planning for my day, particularly in what I'm going to eat, because I'm very particular about how I eat. And that I have the physical things that I might need. Like, do I have a warm jacket? Do I have like options? Like my actual physical comfort, like you talked about, like those cues that make a difference. And I realized that I somehow had learned to, or maybe was just genetically predisposed, whatever it is, to not take care of my body sensations. And so then, yeah, I was always uncomfortable when I started looking at the assessment of like, what am I actually? I'm uncomfortable often. I'm too cold. I'm too hot. I'm sitting in a weird position. My
It takes
shoes
you out of the
hurt.
present
The,
moment
the, the
too.
texture of the thing. I mean, so many, like once I started getting into it, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We're assessing this whole thing. And now I always think about how will I feel, not just at this moment, but for the rest of the day. Like if I have to leave my house, especially when I had kids, do I have the snacks that I need? Do I have a variety? Do I
Right.
have
We do
like
it for the babies.
yeah, because oh yeah, I
Who
mean they
didn't do
have
it
a
for
whole pack of
ourselves?
food, and then I'm like, I'll have their snacks. You know, like it was like that just is I don't
Or
want to
I'll
eat
just
this.
make do with this
Right. I'll find
half a juice
something when we
pouch.
get to the thing. Yeah, and I'm eating the applesauce pouches. I mean, that I feel like eventually I kept those because I was like, this actually was the one thing that I liked. It was like the little it was like apple banana something that my kids used to have. But no, but really like the way that you care in mothering for a child, imagine if you cared and mothered yourself that way. It'd be amazing if the world cared for us that way, but like starting with what we can control,
Mm.
it makes a huge difference. Like I don't feel anxious about being in another space because I know that I've intended to have what I need and I thought it out. But that did mean that I had to take the time like in the night or in the evening to do that thinking ahead when most people are like, "Oh, I don't have time for that. I'll deal with it when I get there." But then you don't have the time to deal with it when you get there. And if it's not available, you just don't eat again. And then that is like the story of your life. You're just not really eating good food every day.
For me, the assessment really looked like going through all of my needs. Like, what are the needs that I am going to have? What are the things that are most so kind of going back to the other conversation we had around like sensory and our nervous system and how we're moving about in the day? I literally go through all of my senses and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be around a lot of people today,
Yeah,
that's a
that's for
lot
you.
of
Yeah.
that's a lot of
Yeah. Are you an
stimuli.
introvert? You talking about introvert, extrovert stuff? Yeah.
And even high sensitivity. Like,
Mhm.
if is my nervous system more permeable and more susceptible to absorbing things in
Yeah.
my environment than a
Some other
nervous
person.
system that's not as porous. And so, what is that going to mean in the long run for my overall well being? Am I going to be overstimulated pretty quickly?
Yeah.
What can I do to be proactive about that? I actually have I can put a link for this as well. I have this they're earplugs called Loop, I think it is. And there's multiple settings that you can still filter through noise. So if I want to go to a concert or I want to go somewhere that has a lot of noise or a lot of stimulation, it filters some of
Mm.
the waves, the sound waves, so that my inner ear, my eardrums, my brain isn't so oversaturated with sound, and I can
You can
stay
still
present.
hear.
I can
Yeah.
still hear and I can still stay present for longer without getting overstimulated really quickly.
I
Like,
love
my
that.
nervous system doesn't get as overloaded.
Yeah.
And so, like, literally just thinking through what are those things. And I'm thinking about in the birth space where you are, preparing to go through different versions of discomfort
Right.
potentially and different types of stimulation in that environment. Like, what are some things that I can call upon? Like, for
Yeah.
example, if someone is thinking back to nervous system, if someone is being really, perhaps like shut down, like their nervous system is in that kind of low swing and they're shutting down or they're kind of stuck. Sometimes smelling something like peppermint can
Yeah.
bring a bit of presence and awareness back and focus. And so you can kind of try out and try on different tools like that for yourself
Right.
that then can be utilized in
Yeah.
the space with the people that you work with.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you're having me think about like going into the birth room and like caring for yourself as a caregiver. So,
Yeah.
whatever your role is, you're in the room at bedside, as we say, with a person in laboring. It could be a 24-hour birth. I always assume it could be 3 days because those have been the longest that I've experienced. And I've learned that I needed to think in advance how to care for myself if something was unexpected by not having what I needed for long periods of time. And so, but things that you mentioned the peppermint, what could be in an environment that you might need to care for yourself differently? The temperature, especially if
Mhm.
it's at a hospital, but also if it's at somebody's home, they're controlling their temperature. It's going to be based on like what's comfortable for the mom. She might get hot, she might get cold. That means that you've got to work out how you
Bring your
feel.
sweater.
Yeah, bring your sweater, take it off. Like, have your options, have your own fan. I always bring a birth ball, like a yoga ball for me and the birthing person if they don't have one, because that's where I love to balance. It's more comfortable. And after, hours of standing up with a person or just being, I want the
Mhm.
variety. I want to be able to move and whine. And while they're like taking a nap or on their birth ball, we are on the birth ball together, just breathing it out, But for me, it's like, it was a very intentional, almost like radical thing to do because people would be like, who is that for? Isn't that for her? And I'm like, I have one for her, but I also have one for me because I'm also going to need to sit. And so, other things, food that you might need to eat, that's something I think a lot of times birth workers early on maybe don't think about, like, oh, I'll order something. When you have time to order something in the birth, like sometimes a birth is like that, but not always. And so then you just won't have it if you don't bring it. So the hospitals don't prioritize you to like bring the meal they bring for them. So like they'll bring them a meal, but not necessarily you at times, depending. Essential oils, that's a big thing for me. Like I like to queue up environments for a certain kind of smell for myself, like not necessarily just to control the environment outside. Like I like to go in with okay, I'm going to use some stress away for like getting me started. And then another thing for something else. And so seeing what works for you and queuing up your own, like almost like, how do you amp yourself up? How do you calm yourself down? How do you have the tools that you're going to need or that you might want to have in an environment? We have here a whole array of things that we thought were really like real for us. Sound bowls, like I just love the sound of a sound bowl. Like I feel like it permeates a space and like starts a new moment. So that's something that I might do for me to like recenter myself if I feel like there's just so much going on. Let me like tune into one tone and then I'm going to come back to this room. I may take it to the bathroom. Like so just really thinking out like what is it that can create an environment for you that shifts it for you.
Mhm. The image that I got when you were talking about those balls is you sitting on the ball, her sitting on the ball, or whoever is sitting on
Yeah.
the other ball. And I imagine you were mirroring things that you were inviting her to do. So taking your deep breaths,
Yeah.
moving your hips.
Yeah.
That is a biological ability that we have. We have these things called mirror neurons in our brain that it's a part of our brain that makes it so that when we see someone else doing something, we're able to feel and experience something similar in our own body.
Mhm.
And it's directly tied to what we understand around attachment and co-regulation, which is exactly what happens between a caregiver, birthing person, and their baby.
Right.
Is, the baby's nervous system doesn't know how to regulate itself. You
Yeah.
have to teach it, you have to
Right.
model it, you have to mirror it.
Right.
And so when you do that for yourself, your client inevitably benefits from
Oh,
that
yeah.
because they're able to see you taking a breath
Oh,
and
yeah.
say, "Oh, it's almost like an automatic sometimes." Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
that same mechanism that happens when you see someone yawn.
Yeah.
They yawn and then
Yeah.
there you are yawning.
Yeah.
And so we can really take use of that we
Oh,
know
yeah.
that is a thing. So,
Yeah.
okay, let me take some breaths and I don't even have to say anything. I
Right.
can just make eye contact,
Yeah.
take a breath, and then they are likely to
Yeah.
also take a breath without even realizing they're responding.
Yeah. And that's so powerful in a room, especially if there's like a lot of activity, there's a lot of people talking, there's a lot of decisions being made, or there's like a little bit unrest. And like to look eye contact with the person that's birthing and just take a deep breath. And then they get the cue. Like,
They
and if you practice it
do.
that way and you've done this, like, we're gonna just be together in this moment. I'm just with you, and whatever's happening, whatever the noise is, whatever they're talking about,
Mm.
and the ding, the ding, the ding. Because sometimes there's stuff
Yeah.
going on in the
Oh my
background of the
gosh,
hospital. Somebody
yes.
else's room is making noise.
Mhm.
Just highly distractive environment. But it's like, can you tune into just this one moment and just be in your breath? And I can be in your breath with you, right? Like I can enter that space with you when you feel like you're overwhelmed. And I mean, you really can, like, with your whole body mirroring, demonstrate, like, when somebody feels like they're at their wits end, like, I just had it. And it's like almost like I go to that physical position, like, uh-huh, and just like sit myself back and just try to like mimic, just, come into, and it's something you do with your children eventually. Often, like, people will end up
Yeah.
doing that with children. Like, they just freak out
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, okay. It's like you find yourself doing things, but it's very similar. Like, humans, we respond to the same things. These, like, very internal cues. But they're also invitations and not like mandates. Like, breathe. You know what I mean? It's different than
Right.
like, come on now, get it together.
Calm
Stop.
down.
Yeah, the calm down.
Oh.
Don't tell people to calm down.
Calm
Don't tell
down to
people to
calm
calm
down.
down in birth and pregnancy. Just don't.
Ah.
If
Or
they
don't
feel
be stressed.
overwhelmed,
Don't stress.
yeah, like,
Don't stress.
you're hurting the baby. That's really not helpful.
Ugh.
Like, who's here pushing right now? But like, so a gentler way, like an invitation way to bring people into,
Do it for yourself.
yeah, and
Let
yeah.
them see you
And
do
you're
it.
breathing,
Uh-huh.
and you're taking a sip of water, like, you're relaxing yourself, like,
Yeah.
because you really, people think that they can teach something that they don't know for themselves, but you can't. You really can't
Gotta
really
embody
deliver
it.
it to somebody else unless you embody it.
You've got to embody it. And we're talking a lot about, again, some things that take practice. It's a muscle that you exercise. And I know that for me, it still happens that there are times where I do get a little activated
Sure.
and I've got to manage it. And so I want to kind of touch on that for a moment, that even you can have all the tools. You could have gone to all the therapy. You could have done all the healing. You could have done all the sound bowls and the oils and all the things and still feel in your body like this is a very activating place. This is a very activating moment. There's something that's coming up for this client or for in this setting that is bringing something up for me that is from the past or whatever, that maybe I thought I resolved it. Like, there's no judgment or sometimes a reason for it, but it happens.
Right.
And so how do we know that it's happening though?
Mm.
And I think that that is a part of this journey of learning the wisdom of your body, learning to speak the body's language, learning those cues. Like, oh, I've tried all the things and I still can't breathe. How do I know that this is happening? And then what tools do I have even in the acute? So a lot of what we've been talking about are kind of proactive measures and things that we do to make sure that we feel our best.
Right.
But in the acute moment, there are sometimes some things that I have to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, for example,
Yeah, like, what do you do?
I was going to say I have usually cold water on hand. Cold water can be really
Hot water.
useful.
That's so funny.
But
Yeah.
it's also part of the nervous system. Like, there's a big nerve that runs in the back of your throat and the back of your body. So when you drink cold water, it can trigger to your nervous system to like
to
reset. Yeah.
Okay.
There are other things you can do, like chewing. I know some people who really enjoy chewing gum, and it's something that I actually bring with my clients who I'm doing what's called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a kind of trauma-focused therapy where they have to go to remembering the trauma and go back there. And so we have to have a lot of tools to bring them back into the present if and when they become dysregulated. And so chewing is something that communicates to your body, I'm safe, because, well, not I'm safe, but I don't need to stay in this fight, flight, or freeze because I'm able to be doing this movement that I otherwise, if I'm chewing, it means I'm eating, which means I'm preparing to digest,
Right.
which means that
And you
I don't
eat
need
when
to
you're,
be
like,
fighting
running
the
from a
bear
lion.
in the room.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or running away from a lion.
Yeah.
And so chewing, just the act of chewing. And I know for some people, like chewing ice during birth can be particularly supportive. Sometimes even like temperature, like cold textures. I have these magnetic balls that I will play with sometimes, and it's really cold. Sometimes I'll hold something really heavy. Sometimes I'll literally just put my feet on the floor. Or there's some research around what's called earthing, and if you go outside and put your bare feet, well, really they advise as much skin as possible directly on the dirt on earth. There's the negative ions that are on the surface of the earth help to neutralize the energy in your body. And there's scientific research that supports it. And so if you're at a birth or you're with a client or whatever, or between clients, go outside, take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground and just breathe.
Yeah, that tends to be a rule for me. Like, after a birth, I go to a tree. I'm like,
yeah,
tree, take anything. I
Tree,
don't need,
tree.
enjoy the vibes of the baby
Yeah,
time, but like the earth is the mother. And but
yeah,
definitely I have found that trees are like very grounding.
yeah.
And even like I had a client many years ago that had a loss, and I felt physically so heavy after the birth. I was like, I need
Mm.
assistance. And I don't want to go home to my family with this on my body. Like at the time I had little
Mhm.
kids, and I was just imagining them like coming to hug me, and I'm like hugging them with all this heaviness of like these days that we were really just getting through a really hard time with this family. And I went to a tree, like a giant tree, and I just like, like a tree hugger, and like put my hands on it, took my shoes off, and like put my feet on the roots. And I'm like, as far as, one of the things I've learned, and I when I was in my doctoral program, I actually took a course in eco psychology, and we spent time in nature with the eco psychologist, like studying and doing like demonstrative things. And one of the things is because the way trees root, and there's like actual fluid that is moving down from the trees down to the earth. So like there is a real mechanism of like flushing that happens when you touch a tree and hold a tree and things like that. And so I find that's helpful, but also water. If you can't get to a tree or something like that, water
Oh,
also similarly releases
huge
ions.
resource
And
for
yeah, and
me.
so you can do that in the bathroom at the thing when you're done. You can
And
rinse your hands, and rinse your feet, and kind of wash your face. And it's something that I feel like people intuitively do, like to
right,
cleanse, like when they feel like, oh
right.
my God, that was a crazy day. I need to go take a shower, right?
Yep.
And you think you just want to like take a shower to get the dirt off, but there is an awareness that something gets reset in your body. And it does. It actually physically does. Chemically, there are shifts in your electric mechanism after you immerse in water. So yeah, tricks of the
All
trade
the
wherever you can.
tricks.
Just find them, use them, see what works for you. You might like cold. I really like warmth because somehow like when I'm cold, my like back hurts, like my muscles get too tight. And so when I have warm things, like the little warm little hand things that like the ones you can get from the store and shake and they get warm,
Mhm.
it just feels like a little treat. I'm like, I can make this thing warm in my pocket. Like, because if it's cold in the hospital and then I can do that, I just feel like I can control something for myself that just feels really good and like supportive and cozy. So it is also about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about external sources. One thing that I recommend for myself and between clients for, times where there's a particular overwhelm that we've got or overstimulation is sensory deprivation.
Mhm.
I recommend this to my moms too and birthing folks and families that are, managing environments that can be regularly overstimulating. You can do this proactively as well, or you could do it in a moment where you're already feeling overstimulated is to go into a room that and turn off the lights, no noise, no phones, no
Yeah.
screens, no nothing, and just be. For
Mhm.
some people, that can be a little hard to
Yeah.
do and can take some practice being comfortable in that space. But I know for me, it really works
Yeah.
to just a reset. Like I'm not taking in anything, I'm not producing or doing anything, I'm not engaging with anything. It just allows my nervous system to just take a break from
Yeah.
processing anything at
Yeah.
all. So there might be a moment if you are in a birth where you can maybe go into the bathroom and
Yeah.
turn the light off, shut the
Right.
door,
Absolutely.
close your eyes, take some breaths, and allow your nervous system to just have a break, a moment away from having to process anything externally,
Yeah.
even if it's temperature or whatever
Right.
coping things. Sometimes you just need to just
Yeah, you
shut
need a
it down.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, taking naps,
Yeah, snaps are great.
naps, or, a 10-minute power nap or a 10-minute close my eyes and just be
Yeah.
is also really useful.
Yeah. I have like a 15-minute like meditative, like guided meditation on ready to go. It's like the first thing in my favorites queue so that I could do a 15-minute power nap. So I may or
So
may not
good.
sleep, although I often am asleep by the end of the meditation. But I know that that is so restorative, that 15 minutes. And there is a sort of a technique with psychology and how the brain works that a nap around 15 to 20 minutes is like the ideal. A little bit
Mhm.
shorter than 15, you won't feel restored, but over 20, you go into another cycle
Yeah,
and you
another
start to
sleep
feel too
cycle.
tired. So
Yeah.
if you can hit that sweet spot between 15 and 20, it's ideal. And, I think people think that they need to have like such extreme, luxurious self care and rest and relaxation practices. Yes, that would be lovely. Do your best. But really, like the thing that the body needs is not to be going all the time. It just needs a pause. Like it needs I'm doing active and now I get to regulate again. And then, okay, I can go again because there's stuff to do and then I can regulate again. You and I have had the fortune to be in Tanzania at different times, but with the beautiful wildlife and communities there and see what it is in nature, how the animals just be with themselves. And it's deep. It's like, what do the lions do when they're not hunting? They just laying around,
they chilling,
living their best, chilling lives. Like they're not out
finding
doing the most. Yeah, finding the shade, rubbing up on themselves. Like that's what
unbothered.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the vibe. Unbothered.
Yeah, like nothing. Even we're going by to see them, and they're like, "This isn't the time when I get up, so you can just feel free to look." Like even animals they would otherwise eat that are walking by them. Yeah. It's not time to hunt right now.
You know
I'm
what?
not bothered by you.
I so appreciate that you brought this in because that has been so on my heart ever since I came back. And I even was thinking about those little baby elephants who were running after mama trying to get some milk. And mama's like, I ain't got time for that right now. I gotta eat. If I don't eat, then you don't eat. Right. So I gotta eat. You chill.
Yeah. I mean, the animals are very serious about their boundaries. They will, they will kind of kick you if they're not ready for you, which is pretty intense. But they survive. Yeah. But I think the demonstration of nature is like everything has these patterns and nothing stays on. Nothing stays on in nature all the time. So us thinking that that's normal and that like that's the thing that I think is the most damaging. And I mean, evidence shows this. The most damaging is to be on all the time, but to have rest periods and to even in the middle of a day, just take a couple deep breaths. Like a 5-minute pause gives you so much more time into the day than you think. And so for people to just recognize, like, please take that in and like make that a part of your everyday. It may not be the way the culture has encouraged you to be. It may not be the way you've seen your parents and your family and community members, but it is the sustainable way. A lot of the elders like in the community, Loretta Ross came to do a presentation to Black Mamas Matter Alliance. And when she started off her keynote, she was like, I want you to be here for the long run. And my peers who were with me when we were your age are gone. Yeah. And I can barely walk. We didn't know there wasn't really the same option for us in our minds to care for ourselves, to pace ourselves, to like have a sustained way of being. But now this is a time where you all really need us. And many of us aren't here to actually be the elders to tell you like how to take this time in history and this time in society to the next level. And so we're all thinking we're going to get this keynote about the revolution and how to support women and, all the things. And like, the first part is like, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. And it was so like, do you hear me? You know what I mean? And she's not the only one that I've heard come to the younger women with the same message. Like, you cannot, our community won't survive all the caregivers just depleting themselves out in the first prime years of their life. And then they're just with their, whatever they have at the end. Like we could be real elders and really be able to carry the wisdoms and have more, and so I'm here for that. Elders. I'm here for being like a healthy elder, still around,
healthy elder
to share with my great grandchildren. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You be in that gym.
I'm trying to be a hiking elder.
Well, you be the hiking elder. I'll be the stretching and walking, breathing yoga elder.
Something that you said though also makes me think about how there very much so has been this sense of urgency that we need to be responsive. We need to do something now because people are dying and we don't have time to waste. Mm-hmm. And we have to be responsive. We have to keep showing up. We have to push through. We have to do the things. And yes, there's room for that. There's room for us to recognize and acknowledge where we're at. And there's only so many hours in the day. We only get one body. And so I find that also playing alongside this like drive to support people and drive to caregive and drive to nurture is this idea that like I can do something to change this. I can fix this.
Yeah.
And that fixing mentality is a slippery slope.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we get into relationship with our clients and thinking that there's something we're going to do that's going to change the whole trajectory of the rest of their experience. Right. And sometimes it's just about giving them the gift of breath.
Yeah.
And that was your role. That was your purpose. And sometimes it doesn't look like making it so they have no stress for the rest of their life. That's
Yeah.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
But sometimes I've seen
Yeah.
people coming into this like with this hero cape
Yeah.
kind of mentality, thinking that they're going to be able to they feel responsible for and think that they're going to be able to fix things. And on the other side of that coin is coming into it thinking they're going to heal something in themselves by fixing things for other
Right.
people. And both of those
Yeah,
are
those are that's just not a reality. Yeah.
in reality, and also not super sustainable.
No, not sustainable and not actually practical. You might attempt to do that a bunch of times, like save
Right.
someone.
Yeah.
And then more likely you're going to find that the thing you were meant to give them, like the actual thing that you were, universally lined up to actually share with them, they get. And then your agenda is not what's actually supposed to be happening. And so they're on their journey
Yeah.
to get this piece now and another piece later. And then when they're ready to take on something, they might remember something you said, and it's a part of like a bigger web of things.
Yes.
But that like, I am the source and the solution. I mean, for me, the correction has been a spiritual correction for me of like, I am not your creator. I am a servant. I am a support. I'm a part of an ecosystem. And what I have to give is this thing. And I'm going to give it with all the energy that I have in this moment. Like, that's real, not the energy I don't have, that I didn't sleep and I didn't eat, like just what I actually have. And that has to be enough because, well, we're here at the same moment, at the same time. I mean, this is what I can give to you. And then the universe has to take it from here because the universe started with you before I got here. And you're going to have a whole life without me, including my own children, right? Like this is like life level, right? Like, it's like I get to do, and I will, like with all of my life force, do everything that I can do at every moment because that's how I'm built. And that has to be enough for me. And where it wasn't enough, like I'm still thinking of you at night and I'm wondering if you're going to do it, or I still wonder. And I might just think, I wonder what that client decided to do, or I wonder where they are. Like that's like a sort of, you had a dear friend and they mentioned they were going to do something, but it's different than, oh, I wonder, maybe I should check in. I mean, like to a level where it gets to be unhealthy, especially if you work with people who have very high needs, which is like environments where
there's always going to be something.
There's always going to be
a crisis. Turn it off.
People have crises.
Yeah.
People have crises. Like this is a actual planet where people have lives, and crises tend to be a part of some people's lives. And if you're in the work of supporting people in crisis, because that's where your gifts are, it's not the same thing as stopping, preventing their actual crisis. Like you're only supporting the part that you play, And so I think, one of my first supervisors, really shared with us an article and this concept around like the good enough parent, which was like for us, even as the good enough therapist, right? And it's like, you just have to be good enough. You give enough, you share enough, you model enough, and then people take it on with their own resilience and they go on their journey, and completely good is too much. Right. Because everybody's not always going to be responsive. They're not always going to answer the question correctly. They're not always going to know what you need. They're not always going to ask you, are you sure you're ready? Some people will be a little bit more pushy, and like there's going to be an opportunity in your life where you're going to have to do a give and take with life. That is life. And so if I am a good enough parent, you're going to get enough of example that you're going to be able to take it from there.
And you're going to learn resilience.
Which
you're going to learn what you need to survive.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
And I that's so real. And I really resonated with the, just knowing that whatever you did for them is potentially opening them up for something later. That was so revolutionary for me as a practitioner. Yeah. I, at first, was thinking, I had to touch on all the things because I have this opportunity. This is my one chance.
And what if they never talk to somebody
do the
else
thing
again?
and they never talk to? But then I realized, maybe this conversation is setting them up to be able to open to somebody else in the future. And I really actually got a lot of comfort in that. And realizing that if I just do my best, I may not have all the right responses, but maybe I can give them just a little taste of what it's like to be fully seen, fully heard, have someone be fully present with them for just this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour, however long I have with them. I've done my part. I have done my part. I might have forgotten the last question I was supposed to ask. I might have forgotten to do the thing and yet I likely did something that was supportive to their journey in some way.
Yeah.
And that just relieved so much pressure
Oh, yeah.
that I felt to get it all right and to have all the answers and all the perfect responses and to, and to have them all like me.
Right. Oh, yeah. No.
Oh,
Yeah. That may not.
you don't vibe with everybody.
No.
You don't meet friends on the street and
just
become
think,
besties with
has to be-
everybody.
yeah, no.
Same thing with the people that you work
Very
with. And
true.
you have to release the idea that you have to be liked and be a
Yeah.
good fit for everybody that you work with.
Yeah.
It's just not
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. If they meet with you and you're not their vibe or you don't bring what they need, the medicine that they need at this moment, or they're not ready for the medicine that you
Right.
bring in this
Right.
moment, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
not on you. That's not something that you should have, could have done
Yeah.
different. You just kind of, okay, well, let me get you with someone. Because if your value really is getting people the support that they need, it might also include not getting it from you.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. You have me I'm back to thinking about nature and like a garden because we like our
Okay,
nature
nature,
themes.
come on.
And like you plant the seeds, you water, you
Yes.
till, you do all the things. But every single rose, every single apple tree, they're not all going to sprout at the same time. And I don't get the sense that Mother Nature is like, you all were supposed to sprout this season. Like
Right.
some things, you live somewhere and you're like, when was that planted? We've been here for 3 years. This thing never came up, but this season it comes up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, also like the ebb and flow of life.
And under the right conditions. Like maybe it just didn't get
100%.
enough sun that year.
Right.
And this year we've had abundance of sun. And so now it was like, all right, I'm ready.
Right.
I got enough. I got enough of what I needed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to help people do
Yeah.
is to figure out, okay, what's the right recipe for me to thrive, to bloom,
Right.
to be my best self? And then also how might that change
Yeah.
over the years and evolve over my life experiences?
Yeah.
Maybe what worked for me last year, the conditions that worked for me last
Right.
year, don't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
And how do I just be in relationship with myself, my body, my presence, my needs, my cues, all the things we've been talking about, in order to adjust and ebb and flow, as you say.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like that was a good place to conclude and sort of like land in, because in order for you to not feel like you have to burn yourself out, you also have to trust that your part is enough and that
you're enough.
And that there's more beyond you and that you're a part of this ecosystem. And if you can lean into that, then it makes it feel like, oh, it's okay if I take a break and get a sip of water now. Like it's okay if I go to the bathroom. It's okay if I maybe don't take this client right now and pass them to someone else because I know that I'm at capacity and this would be way too much for me, even though they're telling me, oh, you'd be my perfect doula. But right now, maybe that's not what's happening in my life. And, and so like that overextending because you think you're the only thing left in the world, like we've got to also know that there's a bigger ecosystem that we can fall into and have our community, ideally have your other birth worker friends, other people you can refer to so you can feel like when you can shift in and out when you need to.
Someday we're gonna have to explore that in more depth, this ecosystem, because I think people think that you have to do this work on your own and that you're just out here on your own trying to save some lives and help some people, and that's actually not ideal either. But that's a whole
other thing.
episode.
We're just like planting seeds.
Yes, we're planting seeds. Someday we will go into more depth with that. But it's been so lovely to lay this all out and just share how even we personally have gotten to where we are. And hopefully folks have gotten some nuggets that they can take and apply and know that it takes practice for you to cultivate for yourself. But once you are able to build that up and feel really comfortable and confident in it for yourself, then you can do that for others. And again, folks are likely already doing a lot of this already intuitively. They just don't realize what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, too. This was great conversation. We want to thank our funding partners for supporting our work and you for tuning in today. If you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, drop us a line in the comments so we can connect. In the meantime, stay well, stay grounded, and be enlightened.